Hey guys, we're on week 14 now, so we're getting down to the very end of things. Sorry about that. Today I want to talk to you about the final project. This week is going to be an easy week for you guys. You're not going to have nearly as much to do as what you've been stressed. Well, I say easy, somewhat easy. We are going to go over some of the things that are due. You do have the writing improvement plan due, and you have the reading response, but you won't have a Blackboard discussion this week. This week, we're just going to focus on writing and working on our final paper because that paper is going to. Did I open that? Let's see if I can figure this out. Go to that. Go to down. Okay, let me try this again. Final paper. Go to download. Okay, that paper is going to be, we want this. Okay, good. Did I do that right? Okay, good. Oh, sorry. Anyway, that paper is going to be our focus for this week. That's what we're working towards is the end. We're there, guys. You've reached the end. Next week, I want you to have a rough draft ready to post to Blackboard. Essentially, you need to have at least, I would say, 1.5 to 2 pages done for your rough draft, typed and ready for someone else to look at, grade, and give you information about. But I want to go over today what to expect, what to look at in your rough draft, and what to be talking about, all that kind of stuff. Let's see if I can minimize that. So the paper itself is worth 180 points. That's changed from the beginning of the year. It's less. It was worth 200 points. The extra points have gone to your Blackboard discussions. That's where 20 points of that grade has gone. But this is still going to be pretty much your highest graded or your worth your most. Even with your final paper is also going to be an essay, but it's going to be a pretty simple opinion-based essay like that last week. We're going to do it in lieu of a portfolio, which I'll probably be emailing you more about pretty soon. It's not going to be worth nearly as much as your portfolio or anything like that. 100 points probably at the most, 75 points at the least. So between 75 to 100 is probably how much I'll allot to that. So this paper is still going to be your main focus and your biggest paper to write. Essentially what you want to do is, yes, that's good. We spent our semester discussing the principles of writing across the curriculum and looking at Kittle's book and Ray's book. We've talked about a lot of stuff with education and with writing in general, writing workshops and rubrics and modifications and feedback and the star and everything else. And we've looked at both theory and practice. We've looked at things that people are doing and things that people think we should be doing and talked about both of them. And what I want from you now is I want you to argue an effective way of implementing writing across the curriculum. So basically, what do you think is the best way out of all the things that we have talked about? What is the best way to get this writing across the curriculum going in your classroom or at your school? You essentially need to address 2 content areas and you need to have a target grade. So for instance, you're going to talk about how to implement writing across the curriculum in, let's say, math and English. Or you could do, if you don't want to do math and English, you could do math and science. Whoops. History and English. How can we connect that writing across the curriculum and write in multiple subjects? So once you've chosen your 2 content areas and you've kind of looked at what grades you want to focus on, do you want to look at elementary in first grade? Do you want to look at high school? What do you want to look at? You need to then talk about an effective approach to teaching writing at this particular grade level. Basically, you need at least 2 specific principles or practices, techniques that we've used in this classroom or that you have read about. For instance, maybe you think journaling is the most positive way to, I'm going to run out of room here, the most positive way to implement writing in both math and science. This is one technique that you could discuss with those 2 things. It doesn't have to be journaling. There's all kinds of different things, avenues that you could take. Maybe you feel like a writing workshop between both areas would be good. Maybe you feel like expository writing would be a good place to focus on. Maybe you think conferencing is the best way to handle writing in all subjects. What do you think? You need essentially 2 areas. So basically you want 2 content areas that you focus on. If I can get this to work. Did I turn my pen off? I turned my pen off. Sorry about that, guys. You want 2 content areas. You want to talk about an effective approach to teaching writing and at least 2 specific principles, okay? The big thing, you want to make sure that you have a solid thesis. So I would use this wording that you see right in here, this whole thing. Treat it kind of like a question. The most effective way to implement writing across the curriculum in math and science is, and then whatever your 2 topics are. The most effective way to implement writing across the curriculum in history and English is, and then basically you've got that strong thesis. And then, of course, you want to support your thesis all the way through your paper. You want to use both your articles, like your scholarly support, okay, that you've come across, your personal experience. And when I say personal experience, you need to tread lightly here because you cannot have first person. No first or second person. This is a scholarly, high-level, formal academic essay. So none of that stuff. No I, me, my, no second person. Think about the scholarly articles that you've written. Eliminate contractions. Eliminate informal speech. You're writing this to other professionals. You're writing it as a teacher to other teachers. Even if you're not planning on being a teacher, that's the goal here. How should the educational world, how should teachers implement writing across the curriculum? And place yourself in that third person scenario. Teachers should. Many teachers probably have experienced. Some teachers have seen such and such. This article talks about teachers who do this, that type of thing. But you definitely want to have no first, no second person. All needs to be third person. You need to include evidence from at least 5 reliable sources. So you definitely want to include your articles. If you don't quote them directly, that's okay. But you do want some direct quotes. And you need, if you don't quote them directly, possibly maybe to implement some of their ideas. Reference them. You could say something like in Kittle's book, remember Penny Kittle was one of our people. What is her book called? Right beside them. She suggests da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That method of writing across the curriculum would work very well in math. La-da-da-da-da. Okay, that could be a way that you include Penny Kittle without directly quoting her. But some direct quotes you do need to use. It needs to be in MLA format. Okay, 1,500 words, not including your works cited. Approximately what you're going for is about 3 pages. I think. Let me make sure I'm right about that. When I was in college, we always did pages, not words. That's a newer thing for me. Yeah, so about 3 pages all the way to the bottom. It will definitely need to be double spaced. You can use Purdue as your reference for MLA if you need it. If you have any issues with MLA, you can also let me know. Of course, I showed you several ways when we went over the annotated bib to to get that works cited page, to get that the citation. And then, of course, you want your in-text references. Yes, Purdue can be Googled. If you Google OWL at Purdue, it literally will be the first website that comes up. So you shouldn't have any issues there. So once again, just to recap, your overall focus this week is to begin writing this paper. Start coming up with your ideas. Look for sources if you need to look for sources. You want to have a situation where you pick 2 content areas, okay? And at least 2 specific strategies that you believe is the best way to implement writing across the curriculum in those content areas. I would like to challenge you to be brave, to pick something that you wouldn't normally pick, but to also be intelligent and pick something that you can definitely handle. If you're completely unfamiliar with anything in regards to science, you might not want to go with that. But obviously, choosing English is an easy way out. I'm not going to score you down for it if you do a good job, but English is an easy route because writing is already included in English. So I would like, if possible, for you to look at some other subject areas. But either way, if you choose English, that is still an option for you. And you do have to choose 2 and 2 specific areas. Don't be afraid if it's something that we haven't talked about. Like, for instance, we've talked about journaling. We've talked about conferencing. We've talked about the theme study and all that kind of stuff. But don't be afraid if you find something in another article that we haven't specifically talked about in class. Don't be afraid to use it either. If it's something that you think would work well and you found some information on that you think solid, then please feel free. Go ahead. Use that information. Now, really quickly, let's talk about the rubric, just so that we go over kind of all of it. If I can get it pulled up. So your rubric is obviously, like I said, it's a little bit different. Most of it's going to be stuff that you're plenty used to. If I can get it to appear like it's supposed to. I don't know why it's coming out weird like that. You will receive 30 points for submitting your essay, for adhering to the guidelines, all that kind of stuff. This essay will be submitted through SafeAssign, which you have not had to do yet. That's just to check for authenticity. Ultimately, because you have quotes or will have quotes from other articles, you will get a feedback report that at least some of the essay is plagiarized. It's going to tell you that. It's going to say something like 30-something% of your essay was plagiarized. However many, depends on how many quotes you use. Don't freak out about it. It's going to have to get over 60% for me to really, really look at it closely. And I'm not about to go around accusing anyone of plagiarizing. It's just the way that we turn in that last essay. I will definitely make for sure that there's something going on before I accuse anyone of anything like that. So please don't freak out over that. But you will turn it in through that. You need to follow all the guidelines and all the assignment deals. It needs to be original. You need to have a strong thesis. That is definitely something that I'm going to be looking for, is a strong thesis. Okay, this is something that everybody has a lot of issues with. I want to know right from the beginning, just about from that into that first paragraph, what it is you're arguing, and I want to see lots of support for it. Organization and structure, you've implemented thoughtful organizational plan. It flows, the thesis is there, it makes sense. That's about 30 points. Grammar and mechanics is 20 points. I typically try to rate grammar and mechanics lower on the scale because I know a lot of people struggle with grammar, but I do suggest, especially with the peer edit, that if you think that you're going to have issues with grammar, because I am going to grade this one more difficult on grammar than what I have it like, for instance, with your reading responses, at this point, if you're doing the work and you're putting in the time, even if you have some grammatical errors in there or have structural issues, even if you're including first person, because there's a lot of them a lot of you guys that I still see doing that, I'm not marking you down for it. I'm still giving you your 15 points because you're doing the work and you're putting in the effort. This is a little bit different. If you use first person or you have grammar issues, I am definitely going to be marking you much more strongly on this one. So I would suggest submitting your paper to the online tutorial. They have it's on the syllabus. If you go back and look at your syllabus, it tells you where to go to do that. So I would suggest that, and to get further help if you don't feel like the peer edit ends up being enough help. Research integrity, you've incorporated reliable scholarly articles. This right here I meant to fix and I completely forgot. So let's address this really quickly. I'm sure I'll still have some questions about it. It says at least 8. No. Okay. That is not correct. I adjusted this in the past, and I have not. I'll tell you now, it's 5. You want 5 sources. I feel like 8 is just a lot of sources to include in a 3-page paper. 5 sources, all you need. Also, no APA, only MLA. I did APA in the past, but this is an English class, so I think we need to rely on MLA. You came prepared on the appropriate day and did all your stuff. I hope this is the right one. Yeah, okay. You did all your rough draft and all that kind of stuff, and you have proof of your rough draft. If you don't participate in the rough draft, you will lose this 25 points. I know last year I had several people not, I know we're not going to class right now, but just as an example. Last year I had several people email me their rough draft after the class meeting day, and I guess they thought that I was going to grade their rough draft and give them their 25 points. That is not the purpose of a peer edit at all. So, and I believe in peer edits. I think that they should be done. So basically you have this peer edit. You won't have the sheet, obviously. The sheet, it's going to be through Blackboard, so that part will change a little bit. But I will expect you to have those 25 points and expect you to do that. And if you don't participate in the peer edit, if you don't submit on week 15 your stuff for Blackboard, then you're not gonna get that 25 points. You just need to accept that now. And I say it's week 15. Let me make sure that's right. Yeah. Week 15 is when your rough draft is due. And I'm going to keep it in the middle of the week. How we've been kind of going with this middle of the week, this Wednesday due date. Basically, I backed all those Monday due dates up from the Monday to the Wednesday to give you a little bit more time during the week to work on it and more time to adjust this whole situation. I'll keep that middle of the week due date. You'll see it on Blackboard, and it'll post the due date and all that good stuff. Your annotated bibliography is worth 20 points, and it has to be included. The development and submission, it meets the Word requirement. You've submitted the final paper electronically into Blackboard and on time. If you email me your final paper after the time, or you don't submit it on Blackboard at the time, you will lose at least some of these points. You may not lose all of them, but you will lose some of them. Guys, at this point in the game, once you start getting down to that final submission of your final paper, I am on just as much of a deadline as you guys, probably more so. I have to have all your grades turned around very quickly. That final week, when it's like Wednesday of that final week that you'll have your final paper, and at that same time, I'll have to turn around by Friday and have all those grades in. So I can't take a bunch of late work on this. You're going to have to make sure you get it in, and you get it in on time. All right, I think that's about it. If you guys have any questions, as always, feel free to text me, to email me. If you need me to call, as always, I do not mind calling one bit. We can totally, a lot of times a verbal conversation is easier to understand and to follow than listening to a text or reading a text message or going back and forth in email. So please don't hesitate to do that. You contact me if you need me. All right, well, that's it. Don't forget that the writing improvement plan is due this week, week 14, and your reading response 10. You don't have a discussion board this week, okay? So your focus this week is getting the writing improvement plan turned in, getting your reading response 10 turned in, and then starting the work for this paper so that by next Wednesday, you will be in a position to post your rough draft and start giving each other feedback on that. All right, guys, talk to you soon. That's the wrong thing. I don't remember where I'm going.